This semester started off with basically information on setting up our digital portfolio. So I'm going to spend today talking about Google Sites. We'll spend some time going over it, and then we will, once we've done that, we'll spend some time getting started with HTML as well so that you guys can get yourselves familiarized with that. Just out of curiosity, show of hands, how many of you have used HTML or CSS before? Okay, so we got a few hands up. All right, yeah, we're going to be covering like some of the basic stuff there. So it might be a little bit of a review for you, but certainly it'll be newer material for people who haven't seen it before, and review is always nice to help solidify that information in your head. Regardless, we are going to get started talking about Google Sites today, and portfolio, online portfolio, and digital portfolio, all that kind of stuff. So, I've been talking about this, and, I brought it up last Wednesday, and we just sort of touched on it. And I spent some time talking about the digital portfolio, but you might be asking, like, what is the purpose of it? Why would you want something like that? Well, basically, it gives you, like I was saying before, the ability to um, show off your material to others. In addition, it gives you the ability to sort of see how you've grown and progressed as a creator since you've created it. So, I mean, that sounds like a silly thing, but a lot of times that can actually be very encouraging to take a look at something that you've created in the past and be like, wow, I've come a long way since then, because that will happen. Um, I know I've looked at some of the stuff that I've made in the past and I've been like, it's rough. But I'm glad at the same time that now I can recognize that there are ways that I could have improved upon it, and that I'm basically better at it than I used to be, in essence. So that's part of it as well. But certainly having a digital portfolio allows you to show your work to others. Be like, hey, so this is what I've been working on. This is what I've completed. This is the kind of stuff I like to do. You can give people a clear idea of where you stand and specifically what, basically what you can specialize in. Things like that. On top of that, like I said, it's just kind of cool to show it off to friends and family. Be like, hey, look, I made this. You know, you didn't think I don't know. You don't know what I do? This is what I do. I make robots. Here's my robot. Here are a couple of pictures of it. Here's a video of it running around. Here's a file that contains all the code I use to make it work. Here's some stuff I made in Inkscape, whatever. Um, the site itself can be a portfolio. If you really enjoy HTML and CSS and things like that, you can spend time uh, basically making the site look really nice, and that way you can show off that site to other people. Um, Maybe down the line you want to make websites. You can show them this site as an example of what you can do. Stuff like that. So basically, it's a good way to display your work for yourself and for others for many, many different reasons. Now, the reason why we're putting it on Google Sites is because it is it's a very good fit for what we want to do. Basically, we want to have a site that's easy to set up, that has a pretty decent amount of customization as far as how you want your site to look and how it's laid out and stuff like that. Um, but at the same time, it's very easy to get into. The templates and things like that make things a lot simpler to create a site and things like that. You can control who can see the site, and probably the best of all, certainly for me, for a poor person, it's free. It's 100% free. I believe there are services that you can purchase, like additional, server loads and stuff like that, server load and things like that. But to get a site up and running, doesn't cost you a dime. So we're going to get this started off with some internet safety stuff, some basic internet safety stuff. This is, I'm sure, stuff that you guys already know, but it's just good to be able to go over these kinds of rules, I say rules, guidelines and things like that, just so we're all clear, we're all on the same page. You make sure that nothing wonky happens or anything like that. But basically, don't share information about your family, your relatives, or your friends, because whatever you put out there on the internet, it's going to be out there. Yeah, exactly. I'm sure you've seen stuff like this. Don't share personal information. Um, do tell your parents about it. And certainly in our case, make your site private or give link access only. That way you'll have a greater amount of control over who does see the site. Now you might be saying like, oh hey, what can I do? If I make it private or I give link access only so people with the link can see it, then I don't have to worry about it, basically random people seeing it. That's not always the case. You might be like, hey, here's the link. And they might, out of good intentions or otherwise, be like, hey, here's this site that, so-and-so showed me. And they'll show it off to somebody else, and then somebody else will have the link, and somebody else will have the link, and somebody else will have the link. And before you know it, you've given access to, people that you don't know. Generally, that kind of thing doesn't happen, especially if you show it off to like your friends and family and stuff like that. But just to be on the safe side, don't put personal information on it for either you or people you know. This is the reason why anything on the web can be seen by anyone. I mean, even if we give it link access, there might be a point down the path where somebody you don't know is able to see it, just purely by random chance or by association from people who do know the link. Be sure to notify your parents if anything questionable, if anything weird happens. Tell your parents. They can help you out. Um, they can work with you to decide the best course of action on that kind of thing. And do not put pictures of yourself on your site without your parents' permission. Same kind of deal. Don't put personal information up. It's all rolled up into the same thing. That's about as personal information um, as you can get on the internet a lot of times is a picture of yourself. So, avoid that. Don't do that. Just stay away from it. So, show of hands, how many of you have a Google account? Or have access to a Google account which you can use to create a website? Okay, so just about everybody. But just in case you don't, if you go to like sites.google.com, you should definitely be able to, it'll ask you to like create a username or sign in with one. Oh, well, hey, there you go. Yes, that's, at any rate, apologies. You go to Google Sites, so sites.google.com, just like I have up here. And it'll ask you to either log in, or it'll automatically log in if you already have recently, or it'll ask you to create an account. So, whatever you got to do in order to get logged in, if it requires you creating an account, and you can, if you're allowed to, then go ahead and do it. If not, see if you can't get at least some login, maybe if your parents don't allow you to create a Google account, see if you can't use one of their Google accounts to do this lesson or something like that, just so we can spend time getting it set up. As you can see, I've got a number of lovely sites here. Yes, these are the names I give my sites when I'm doing these presentations because I am unimaginative. And except for YOT test site thingy, I don't know who made that. I have no idea who made that. Uh, that was not me. Um, thank you. Thank you. Anyway, once you've created your account or logged in, you should be looking at something like this. This is just sort of the generic sites list. It'll list all of the sites that you've created, clearly, as you can see here, or the sites that you have edit access to, a Smash Mouth fan page. Yeah. I mean, you can create multiple sites with the same login. So, you could create your digital portfolio, and then you could create a Smash Mouth fan page. Nothing stopping you, especially like, you know, if you really like making websites, then by all means, create a Smash Mouth web page or fan page, web fan page, whatever. Apologize, I'm a little all over the place today, so just bear with me here. At any rate, you should be looking at something like this, and you won't be Smash Mouth as a band. That got very big about, I want to say, 10, 15 years ago. I mean, they're still around, but they had a couple of really big hits around then. Yeah. You ever heard like All Star or their cover of the Monkees? I'm a Believer, stuff like that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep. See, there you go. Um, that's Smash Mouth. Anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to create our website so that we can get a feel for what's going on the Google sites, start messing around, and basically get comfortable with it so that we can set up our digital portfolios. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click the big red create over here. Bam. And it's going to bring me to, well, I guess it's red. And it's not really that big. Whatever. You guys saw what I did. It's going to take me to this sort of initial page. What we do here is we set up everything. We set up our site basically to exist. This doesn't create any content on it yet, with limited exceptions. But basically what we're doing here is, as you can see, we can select a template to use. This will determine the layout of the page, of the entire site, in fact, but the individual pages as well. We'll give it a name, and that name will appear up here in the tab. And we'll give it a URL or an URL, depending upon your preference, but I like URL. I think it's universal reference link off the top of my head. I don't remember. Well, go ahead and follow along with what I'm doing right now anyway. So go ahead and click the create button and everything like that so that you guys can poke around at stuff while I'm explaining it, you know? So let's see here. I'm just going to do this as an example. You guys are more than welcome to select a template that looks good to you. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the classroom site template. And this supposedly is set up so that if you're creating a website for a classroom that you're teaching, this would be the ideal setup. But it's just basically some guidelines in a given direction. We can always edit a lot of this stuff later on so that it looks like a totally different thing. Uniform resource locator. Thank you. I was not quite correct, but yeah. URL, uniform resource locator, not universal reference link. Totally not right at all. Anyway, and we're going to have to give it a name. And like I said, I'm terrible with names. So we're going to call it Uniform Resource Locator. And as you can see, as I created that name, the site location automatically populated down here. Now, it's not always going to be exactly that. A lot of times, and we may have to try and create the site once in order to test that out. But a lot of this stuff has already been taken. You know, you talk about a free service that's usable across the entire internet, AAA001. Nice. I'm looking forward to AAA002 and so forth. Once you get to BAA, that'll be a big day. Sorry. You're not... don't choose a blank template just because that's a little bit too freeform. You can always choose, you can choose any of these other ones though. Certainly for this one. In the future, you know, you can create one with a blank template and then use HTML and CSS to mess around with it to your liking. But for now, we're going to create one that has a template that's not blank. Again, Doesn't have to be classroom, but you know. Anyway, uniform resource locator. So, like I said, you've got a lot of people who all use Google Sites. You're not necessarily going to get a URL that corresponds exactly to your site. Sometimes you're going to have to put some numbers after it or whatever, but that's just so you know. It doesn't really matter. That's the URL that people use to get to your site. That's not the name they're going to see when they in fact visited. So uniform resource locator, you can select a theme here, and that gives it all kinds of different colorations and stuff like that, and then more options allows you to put in a site description, and we should not be checking that one. We should be checking, however, that we're not a robot. So make sure that's clicked. And once that's done, we can click create and see what happens. See, exactly. The location you have chosen is not available, so somebody already used uniform resource locator. Smash Mouth fan page, excellent. So we're going to use, yeah, go ahead and create one right now. We're going to use uniform resource locator, the sequel, because this is the second page. Electric Boogaloo. Nobody used the best website ever. Oh, hey, there you go. All yours then. So I'm not a robot. I have to re-click that just to verify that I am not in fact a robot. Hit create site. Oh, and the name is too long. All right, well, let's get rid of Electric Boogaloo. Sometimes this is kind of trial and error stuff, which is part of the reason why I was talking about it right now and starting to... Oh, that's still too long. Uniform resource locator 2. Once you've finally gotten it like I've finally gotten it, after some difficulties with setting up my site location, it will spend some time creating your site, and that's basically is just allocating space, and it's setting up pages on there that correspond to the template that you picked, and basically setting up a valid redirect from your URL to this site. And it'll take a minute. So just go ahead and sit back and relax while it's creating your site. Hey, there we go. Here's my site. Look at all this. And it's like I didn't even do any work, basically because I didn't really do any work. So too much Latin. Yeah, this is it's rapidly become like the graphic design standard for where text is supposed to be placed, and you got the lorem ipsum dolor cinemet. I don't know. I don't actually know. I'm not sure if it's. I believe like the first sentence is actual Latin, and then the rest of it is just kind of nonsense. I mean, they could be Latin words. Honestly, I don't know. At any rate, gibberish. Yeah. Got one. Nice. Anyway, this is what your site is going to look like. It's probably going to look like the template that you picked and not my lovely classroom site. But this is part of the reason why we're using Google Sites, because it allows you to just straight off the bat give yourself a setup that you can use. As you can see, it's already got some stuff like Student of the Month and Word of the Week, which for some reason is Schadenfreude. I don't know why. Maybe that's just pulling it from a an online resource or something like that. Seems a little odd though. Anyway, then you've got announcements and homework assignments, and then we've got a whole bunch of links over here on the left: homework assignments, extra credit, contact me, class announcements, class calendar, reading list, useful links, class photos, forums, and docs. And then there's a poll, and there's a picture. We can click there to read about Mrs. Smith, who doesn't actually exist. It's a good stock photo though. Looks like a happy family. But at any rate, like I said, this is part of the reason why we like Google Sites, is because all this stuff is already set up for us. And now what we can do is we can start populating it with our own information. So let's take some time to, well, first let's spend some time going over the presentation a little bit more, and we'll go over exactly how you can start editing that stuff. Okay, well, yeah, that. All right, so first things first, let's take a look at how we're going to edit a page. And as you can see, there's not like a whole lot of buttons you can click around here. You know, we can click on the site, links on the site and stuff like that, but those are going to take us to other pages in our own site. So if I go to homework assignments, the audio is kind of chopping and is lagging a bit. Is anybody else getting issues with the audio? Raise your hand if you are. Not all the time, just some of the time. Just my friend spamming me on Steam. Nice. Okay. Raise your hand if things sound okay. Well, I couldn't tell you. It could be my connection, like it could be my end, or it could be maybe somebody's downloading something on your end, or using the internet, streaming something. Yeah, it's possible. I hope it's not my internet. I just upgraded it. Anyway, yeah, anyway, if I click on any of these links over here, it's just going to take me to existing pages on my site. See, we can contact Google. We can also send a contact form that will go somewhere. No idea where that form goes. It's okay if you didn't make a website with a template. Don't sweat it too much. I just wanted to, this gives a good jumping off point to show a lot of the features that Google Site has for editing pages and stuff like that. But, you know, I guess if you already created one without it, then don't sweat it too much. Can we import pictures? Yeah, sure, as long as they're not pictures of you or your friends or your family. Anyway, like I said, there aren't a whole lot of buttons around here. But what we're going to do is we're going to start taking a look at each of these. So I'm going to go back to the home page and click up here on the pencil. That is what that is. That is a pencil. If I mouse over it, it says edit page, and then there's a little lowercase e. So I can either click on that or I can hit E on the keyboard, probably Control E. At any rate, there, click on it, and suddenly the whole page looks different. So now we've got recent announcements, student of the month, recent announcements, word of the week, recent announcements, homework assignments. So basically, so if I click cancel here, all of this stuff, you know, is how it looks totally different from what this is. These are kind of what are called like widgets. And widgets are just basically little HTML and CSS and JavaScript sort of little additional functionality gribblies that you can stick onto your page. So interestingly, you'll notice that there is no actual text here other than the tip, which is helpfully provided for us by Google. That's because this stuff is all automatically populated by those widgets. It's creating a nice little header, and it's filling out information with, like, you know, a person's picture and their something about them and the word of the week and then the other recent announcements and homework assignments and stuff like that. These are all those widgets. Now, granted, you don't actually have to do that. You can make it a lot easier, a lot simpler on yourself. You can just add stuff by straight up typing it. Look at that. And if we click save, There it is right there, straight up typing it before all of our other widgets and right after the how to post an announcement. Now, I'm trying to edit a tab thing, but I can't. A tab thing. Explain. What do you mean by a tab thing? Like one of these widgets that I've got here? Oh, like it's like a thing. I'm sorry, that links you to a Tumblr page. Oh, okay. So it's a one. Is it one of these links on the left-hand side over here? Oh, you're trying to add a tab thing. I'm not entirely sure what you're asking here, Liam. I want to be honest with you. So you've got a thing near the top that links to a Tumblr page and you're trying to edit it? Okay. Links and stuff like that, we'll actually handle in a sec. Links are done differently from editing individual pages. Yeah. So okay, that's why that's happening. Yeah, if I click on like homework assignments or something like that right here to try and edit it, it's going to take me right out of homework assignments. Now you'll notice that you might notice in a moment here that this stuff is automatically populated over here, because if I call this like snood and hit save, not only is yeah, definitely. Thank you, William. Yeah, if you go to insert tab, you can insert a link. Not only did I change the name of this page, it's now called Snood instead of Home. It's actually listed over here in the, it changed its mind, apparently. That's odd. See, now it says Snood up here. I don't know why it decided to change it. I think I know why. Nope, still not entirely sure. Anyway, at any rate, one of the other nice things about Google Sites is there's a term for it. It's kind of silly. It's called Wysiwyg, just short for what you see is what you get. So much like creating something in Word or something like that, we'll get there, Matt. We'll get to all this stuff. Um, much like in Word and stuff like that, when you start typing stuff out and you print out a page that you typed out or whatever, it's ideally going to look exactly like how you saw it on the computer. So we can do the same thing here. We can mess with the font size, mess with the stuff here, and choose a different font, and we can create a table, insert a link and stuff like that, but we can be like, hi there, internet people. And if we hit save, and there it is right there, just like how we saw it before in the editor. I know this is all kind of basic stuff, but this is all stuff that you might take for granted, and this is stuff that hadn't really existed before. Like big fancy high-end like page editors and stuff like that. So it's interesting that, Google has made it so that it's super easy for you. Anyway, let's see here. Okay, so basically what we've got so far is a good start, but maybe there are pages missing, there's information that you want to have there, or there are additional pages that you don't want. Maybe the site layout doesn't exactly conform to what you'd like. Well, it is possible to edit that stuff as well. And in fact, we got a couple of buttons for that. So this one, obviously, the plus sign page, easy. Create a page. just like it says on the tin, you're going to create a new page that can sit in here. We can call it like a test page, and we can select a template, web page, announcements, file cabinet, and list. Web page is just a plain old web page, like most of the stuff you look at. Announcements is a page that automatically populates with stuff that you insert into it, so you can have announcements about the progress of something, or say like, hi, how are you today, or whatever, you know, announcements. File cabinet is a place where you can store files, upload and download, and a list is just a specially formatted web page that provides a list of whatever you need a list for, all of your list needs. And you can say, you can tell it where you want to put the page too. So when it says put a page at the top level, or put a page under snood, or, you know, one of these down here, that's because you can think of the structure of a site like a tree, just like you can with, let's see here. Well, I guess you can just think of, you accidentally created a test page. You can do that under the gear. We can go over that in a moment too, because I'm actually going to create this page and then delete it. You can think of it kind of like a, like, have you ever worked with book outlines and stuff like that, or essay outlines or something for an essay you're going to write, and you might have like a 1 and then introduction and 2 first point and stuff like that. Like, they teach you as a way of structuring your things, and you might have subpoints underneath that. You might have a make point. Get used to me using my mouse in Paint because this is a thing that happens a lot. B, argue point. And C, say you're right. And then you might have a separate point, like you might have a small one down here. It might be like, I'm right. And so on and so forth. Really, the whole thing I'm getting at here is there's sort of a hierarchy to it. Like, all of these A, B, and C are subparts of the big Roman numeral 2, and this little tiny one is a subpart of C. And there's sort of like a, almost kind of like a tree or something like that kind of design to it. Well, that's what they're asking here. If we put the page at the top level, we're basically making it one of these big Roman numeral points. If we put a page under something, like say this one is snood right here, we could say test page. We're basically creating a little subpoint under that page. Now, a lot of the stuff is going to be at the top level on a lot of these sites. Not always, but a lot of the time. So you're more than welcome to do that. No big deal. If you create it, it's all up to you entirely anyway, because you might want it to be under something else, you might not. What we're going to do is we're going to put page at the top level, and I'm just going to click create up here. And it's going to spend some time creating. As you can see, we got a nice blank web page here. We can start filling it with information. Hit save. This is our wonderful test page. Now, some of you asked how you might delete a test page. Super easy. Just go to the gear over here, click delete page. Deleting test page will delete the following items. Test page. Click delete. It'll think, and it'll think, and it'll think, and it'll think. It'll continue to think. And then it's gone. And you're taken back to either the page that's the next level up or your home page. Now, it's the perfect segue to talk about all the other stuff that's inside of this gear over here, and that's what this is. This is a gear. This is called the More Actions drop-down menu. So we got page actions, revision history, subscribe to page changes, page settings, print page, copy page, preview page as a viewer, What do those do? Well, revision history gives you a list of all the changes that you've made to this page. So if we go here, hey, we've got a bunch of different versions. And if we click on like version 3, now you can see like I've got the straight up typing it here, but there's no hello internet people. We'll get on to version 2. There's a couple of other things. If we compare the two versions, it'll give you a list of what's different. Like this is underlined, so it's different. There isn't anything crossed out, so we haven't gotten rid of anything. But basically, it'll give you a list of all the different changes and stuff like that. And if you want to, in case you make a bunch of changes and you hate them, you can revert to an earlier version. And as you can see, the hello there, internet people is gone because we reverted to an earlier change. That can be useful for larger sites and stuff like that. If you start adding a bunch of stuff and you just want to test it out, you end up not really being a fan of it, you don't have to worry about finding all the changes that you made and putting them back, especially if it takes you some time to sort of figure out. Oh, no worries, Tim. We are just going over website creation in Google Sites for the online portfolio, digital portfolio. Okay, sounds good. But yeah, so that allows you to not really be afraid of making huge changes to your site and stuff like that because you can always revert to earlier versions. Move that out of the way. Subscribe to page changes is a fairly similar thing, except you'll just get an email every time somebody changes something on the site, which can be useful if multiple people are making changes on the site. You're just like, wait, why, who, what's changing, where, why, and if you just get an email each time, there you know. Page settings. Page settings, as you can see here, show page title, show links to subpages, allow attachments, allow comments. Oh, gotcha. Excellent. Oh, I forgot about the drop-down menu in the edit page. Well, we can go over that later or tomorrow or something. At any rate, this allows you to change some overall stuff that Google has included in a lot of their site design, like having the page title show up, having links over here on the left-hand side, allowing attachments, either you yourself or other people editing the site to attach things to the page, allow comments so people visiting your site can comment on it, page description for browsers and history and stuff like that. And you can also change the template so that it can be, in case you selected the wrong design or you want to change what this particular page is for. So bam, that's what that's good for. And that's the page settings. You can print the page or copy the page. Printing the page, pretty self-explanatory. Print the page. Yeah. Copy page allows you to create a copy of the page so that you can use it elsewhere in your site or whatever. So if you have a bunch of similar pages, you can create a copy, a whole bunch of copies, and then edit them as needed. Preview Pages Viewer allows you to look at the page as if you're somebody who's visiting the site. This is what they'll see when they visit your site. Page templates, save as page template. So let's say you spend a whole bunch of time customizing this page to your liking, and you like the way that you like the location of where the links are and the color of everything and the pictures you have and the sort of just the general design. You can save it as a template, which you can then use. You can apply it to any new pages you create, so they're automatically going to look like the page that you created, which is good. Change page template, pretty self-explanatory, allows you to change the template of the page. Subscribe to site changes. This is the same thing as subscribe to page changes, except you receive an email anytime anything on the site changes as opposed to anything that the page that you're currently on changes. I think that, yeah. Anyway, edit site layout. Edit site layout allows you to change basically just where everything is. So if we, move this to a different location, we should be able, I see, this is part of the reason we don't have the horizontal navigation enabled. Wait, no, actually we don't want that. We do want the header. At any rate, if I wasn't failing at this so hard right now, you would be able to at the very least be able to drag and drop stuff. You'd also be able to, as you can see, you can get rid of stuff. So I got rid of that picture there because it was starting to creep me out a little bit. I'm going to get rid of the poll. You can add more things. You can add a button or, a navigation item or anything like that. You can add a custom footer. So you can add stuff to the bottom. So if we added like a navigation to the bottom, well, no, okay. We can add, hello, you found my secret bottom of the page. This is very difficult to find. Anyway, yes, it allows you to basically just sort of change the look of your site on a larger scale as opposed to the individual, sort of items that exist around here. So I'll go ahead and close that. Managed site is actually a pretty big area, which I wanted to spend a little bit of time looking at today. There is a lot of stuff you can do here, including a couple of pretty important things that we'll want to go over. So you start out pretty basic stuff, like I think we're sitting in general right now. Yes, we are. Uniform resource locator, that's our site name. We already knew that. Site notice, a disposable message that will be shown to site visitors, something that will pop up when they enter and stuff like that. Site description, again, will show up in the history. Site storage is an important thing to keep track of. As you can see, I can only hold 100 megabytes worth of content on this website because it's free. If I paid for it, I could get more. You can copy this site in case you wanted to save a copy of it on your computer to make changes to preview before you uploaded it. You can publish the site as a template so that you can use it later on. You can delete this site, pretty straightforward. You get rid of the site, it's gone. Pages, let's see here. Recent site activity is all the changes that are made to the site. So as you can see, I did home. You click the gear and you go to manage site. And that should take you to this menu here. Okay, the gear is, let me go back. The gear is where all this stuff is that I've been showing you, is up here in the upper right-hand corner. If you can't see it, you might be looking at a preview or something like that. You might want to just click back a couple of times and it should pop up, that kind of stuff. Okay, excellent. So yeah, click the gear, click on Manage Site, boom, here you are. Recent site activity, like I was saying, is changes that are made to the site. And again, this is site-wide, not just a specific page. Pages allows you to reorder the pages. So if we can, if we wanted to, we could take a reminder of field trip next week, put it in homework assignments, and boom, now reminder of field trip next week is in homework assignments. We can move the reading list into homework assignments. We can move word of the week into class announcements. We can take the photos and put them into contact me and extra credit into homework assignments. Stuff like that. It allows you to restructure basically the way your site is laid out. Again, here's the kind of a good way of looking at the tree that I'm talking about if we minimize all this stuff. Boop, 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 boop. So this is all like top level stuff, but as you can see, you can have like specific sub sort of sections. So that's kind of neat to have. Attachments are things that you can, well, attach to your website. Pictures for the website, items that you may, small items that you may have people download like PDFs or small zip files or something like that. I say PDFs as if it's a small item, but they're not always. Things like that. Page templates allows you to take a look at the standard templates that you have. As you can see, announcements, a mini blog of announcements, a place for file storage. Apologies.
Hey, Tom, if you don't mind me mentioning this, can I just jump in and say, um, real quickly, guys, those that have normally a Thursday lab scheduled for tomorrow, this week, it's on Tuesday. This is the one time this semester that we will meet on a Tuesday night instead of a Thursday. But it will be tomorrow night. Thursday, the lab's already being, is not available. Charlotte Land needs it. So Thursday, we won't be there. We're going to be here Tuesday. Okay? So everybody just remind that. That's an important deal. Okay?
Yeah, definitely. Don't forget that, because you don't want to show up
Yeah.
on Thursday and be
It's
like,
been
or Tuesday, I
it's
mean.
been on our calendars, but we just make sure to remind parental units and all those good things. Okay, folks? Tom, sorry for the interruption. I just wanted to catch everybody in case anybody shined off early.
No worries.
Okay?
It's a good thing to make sure of.
Myself.
But yeah, so basically those are all the layouts that you use in your site, and you can add more. You can edit ones that exist here, things like that. Apps and scripts, JavaScript stuff, small applications, little things like that that you can run on the site. I had one on an old one that I had that um, it was just a little app. It was a Google Calendar app that gave sort of all the information about our club when they were meeting and things like that, so that, you know, and then below it was a little contact us for a meeting thing, so that they could set up a time that worked for them and worked for us to meet and talk about, you know, fundraising things and whatever. So just stuff like that, that add a little bit more functionality to your site. Deleted items, stuff that you deleted. Pretty self-explanatory. Now this is the big one I wanted to talk about, sharing of permissions. Sharing of permissions allows you to change who can see your site, who can edit your site, who can see your site, how they get to your site, stuff like that. So as you can see, I've got a link up here, sites.google.com/uniform resource locator 2, electric boogaloo. I have a couple of choices to share the link either by Gmail or Google Plus or Facebook or Twitter or whatever, and then I can change who has access to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say for public on the web, anyone on the internet can find and view. I don't want that right now. What I want to do is I want to change it so that anyone with the link can access. Well, let me show you this. Shared with specific people, if we set it to that one, now the only thing we can do is we can invite people using this down here. So we can set it to can view, and we can invite people using their email addresses. So I could invite, you know, my friends to see the site, but that's the only way they'd be able to see the site is once they got the invite from us. If we set it to private, the only way they can see the site is if they get the invite to view from us. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to anyone with the link, and set it so that I could provide link access to people. So all they have to do in order to see the site is just get the link for it, which means that it's not going to be listed on Google as a site that exists. You know, you can't link to it from outside accidentally, things like that. So it adds a little bit more privacy to it. Like if we made this fully public and we searched for Uniform Resource Locator 2 snood or something like that, this would be one of the results that popped up. It might be paged like a million, but it would be one of the results that popped up. So if we set it to link view, that ensures that it doesn't just like sort of float out there somewhere in the internet. So that's something that I definitely want you guys to change when you're doing your sites, is set them up so that their link access are private, just so they're not public and floating out there somewhere. Web address, pretty straightforward. You can add more web addresses that get redirected to the same website. And themes, colors, and fonts allows you to change the themes, colors, and fonts of your particular templates. So if we wanted to change like the colors across the entire site, say we wanted to have this lovely green color, and we wanted to have that. So now the site is suddenly a lot more interesting looking. Oh geez, what have I done? Let's see, we can click save here. Changes have been saved. I can go back to the site. And now it's just a horrible sort of seafoam green. But you could if you wanted to. It's super easy. All right, it's 7:55. I think on Wednesday we're going to spend a little bit more time going over Google Sites, and we're going to get started on HTML and stuff like that. But for now, I want to make sure I get the poll questions done before I have to start preparing for my next class. So I think I'm going to get started on that right now. So basically what you're seeing is just going to get replaced with a question with a radio button on it. Just go ahead and select the one that seems appropriate, or that that you agree with, and then click submit. And once I get about 80% response, I'll go ahead and close the poll. I'll do a countdown. If we get 100%, I'll just close it immediately, and I'll show the results back to you guys. It's totally anonymous, so don't worry about like being like, oh my God, he's going to know if I said he's terrible. Also, be honest, because it helps me out too. So if you say like, oh, I didn't understand anything, or you went too quickly or something like that, I can use that in the future. I can go a little bit more slowly, or if it was too slow and too boring, I can go a little more quickly, whatever. Anyway, first poll question. All right, we're at 85%. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Close. All right, so popped in at the last second there, just a little bit too fast. All right, for the most part, the pacing was good. I'm glad to hear that. I will go just maybe a little teensy bit slower next time. If you ever want me to go over anything again, like you just like, wait, I didn't catch that, feel free to ask me. Just throw it into the question box. I can always go back and go over something again, just to make sure that we don't, like run into a situation where you're trying to figure out what I just did and I'm already moved on to the next thing or whatever. This one you can select multiple answers. So you can select all of them. There it is. First result, all of them selected. All right, 92, so 5, 4, 3, 2, 100%. All right, so usually I judge this based on what has the most votes. So great and good. That's good. That's promising. I'm glad. Let's see here. That is 215% response. Excellent. That is excellent. Okay, so the other ones are basically, did you come to the last webinar and did you enjoy your last lab, which I think aren't necessarily going to be strictly applicable right now. So I'm going to go ahead and say that you guys are more than welcome to head out. If you have any questions, I'm here for just a couple more minutes, although I should write it about in a minute or so. I'm going to get prepared for my next class. But yeah, otherwise, you guys are more than welcome to head on out. Have a wonderful couple of days, and we will see you on Wednesday.
All right, and I'm right here. If I can answer anybody's questions, I'm ready to do it.